We still haven't. We are live now. Why? So late we are live. It was stuck somewhere. Anyways, again it's trying to go live. Your engineers are concerned about application availability during in-place updates to a live Elastic Beanstalk stack. You advise them to consider a blue-green deployment and then list the necessary steps to carry out this deployment. Which steps are valid to include? Deploy new version of the application from the choose restart environment, clone the current environment. Hmm. Deploy the new version from the new environments dashboard, choose restart environment. Ah, okay, from the new environments dashboard, swap environment URL and click swap. From the new environments dashboard, choose restart environment. Why would you restart environment? Let's go with this. New client has an application replicated, replicas hosted on Amazon EC2 instance deployed in different regions. They want to be able to use CloudWatch to monitor and analyze all of these EC2 instances efficiently. What recommendations can you make? And application replicas are hosted in different set CloudWatch alarm indicating when the data is ready for aggregation. Pull the output, the appropriate data from each region using CloudWatch command line interface. Select the series to namespace in the CloudWatch console and then select across all instances to graph each region. Note that Amazon CloudWatch aggregate data across. Yes. Sure. Tricky questions. Your company is migrating their environment to AWS. The legacy environment relied on Chef for automation, and your engineers are comfortable with this solution. So, environment is in Chef, team is comfortable. In addition, your compliance officer has indicated that the new environment needs centralized, auditable configuration management for regulatory reasons. Which of the following AWS automation tools is most appropriate? OpsWorks is appropriate because OpsWorks offers Chef, right? A user has enabled a CloudWatch alarm. The alarm has a $50 threshold for total AWS charges in the US East region. When does CloudWatch trigger the alarm for this threshold? When the total AWS charge exceeds $50? Yeah. Yeah, I think this should be whenever the AWS charge is $49. When this, it's not regional. So cost is not regional. Alarm can be regional. After reviewing the reports from AWS Trusted Advisor, your company has decided to enable multi-factor authentication for IAM users and root account. Each of the following MFA options can be used for both account types. Software-based MFA, SNS, this is hardware MFA. Yep, both are possible. Okay, so next question in the DevOps engineer role is, you wish to perform detailed monitoring on servers that are marked for as unhealthy before they are terminated. You wish to perform detailed monitoring of servers that are marked as unhealthy before they are terminated. After researching the issue, you find the lifecycle hooks can be deployed as necessary. What strategy could you use to perform detailed monitoring? Query this. No, query the define a notification target for lifecycle hook. Create a longer cooldown period in the launch configuration. Yep, use CloudWatch. No? Okay, okay. You wish to perform detailed monitoring on servers that are marked as unhealthy before they are terminated. After researching the issue, you found that lifecycle hooks can be deployed as necessary. What strategies? Okay. You need to deploy a new version of an application to production because the deployment is, you can unmute if you want. Okay. You need to deploy a new version of an application to production because the deployment is high risk. You need to roll the new version out to user over a number of hours to make sure everything is working correctly. You need to be able to control the, okay, so it's sort of blue green or other canary kind of deployment where you want to increase the percentage of people. Okay, you have been told that you cannot spend too much money, so you must not increase the number of EC2 instances much at all, so you don't do all of them together. However, you also need to be able to switch back to original version of code quickly if something goes wrong. What is the best way to meet this requirement? Create a second ELB, auto scaling config, auto scaling group using launch configuration. Create AMIs that code pre-installed. Assign the new AMI to the second auto scaling launch. Fill the blanks. Dash helps us track AWS API calls and transitions. CloudTrail helps. So CloudTrail is the tracks API call, so it has to be B and D, somewhere B and D. And then Dash helps to understand what resources we have now. Config and Dash allows auditing credentials and login credential reports. An organization is planning to implement a scalable web application with Amazon EC2. The organization is planning to achieve high availability with multi-AZ features. A single deployment of your application requires 8 vCPUs and 16 gigabyte total memory. The application workload is very stable and does not experience spikes in activity. It is possible to divide the workload across separate instances. Which configuration is the best choice for high availability, disaster recovery, and cost effectiveness in this scenario? Launch 4 instances. Okay, 4 instances. Associate all four instances to one auto scaling group and deploy the instance in two separate AZs, and then load multi-AZ feature, and then load balancer them with an elastic load balancer. This makes sense. Launch 8 instances with 4 CPUs. It need eight vCPUs are required. So you need to have 8 in one region. So this is fine, right? 4 instances, 2 in each region. But it doesn't say do it in different, it says not two separate availability zones. So this looks fine. Launch 2 instances with this. Associate both instances with one auto scaling group. Plot them separate availability zones. Finally, load balance them with ELB. How is this different from this one? This will have two. C is right. Why divide it across multiple CPUs? You don't know the application architecture. So how do we know whether it will support launch 4 instances? Okay. We are submitting, right? Compliance is a major concern for most enterprise organizations, especially entities such as healthcare and financial institutions that require strict control over their environments, right? Which AWS service allows customers like these to review the configuration details of AWS resources in their account and monitor changes. Config has to be AWS config. CloudTrail is the logging thing. System manager is you want to make some updates and all to the multiple machines. And OpsWorks is also chef puppet kind of automation. So config helps you in that. You have been assigned to a client who has an existing AWS cloud environment. They are already using CloudFormation to deploy dev, test, and production environments. You immediately recognize that they are using the same CloudFormation template for dev and production. The project plan calls for major performance testing at end of the project, and the client wants to cut cost where possible. You recommend using smaller EC2 instances for the developer dev environments. What section of a CloudFormation template can you use to deploy variable sized instances depending on the environment? Metadata no, transform no, mappings or conditions. Mappings. As an experienced CI/CD expert, you have gone ahead and used AWS CodeStar to launch your CI/CD environment. Within your CodeStar deployment projects, you need to grant access to others so you can work together. Which of the following are roles defined within CodeStar? No idea. You have been assigned to a client to use OpsWorks for deployments in their AWS cloud environment. The client is doing development and needs environments for dev, test, and production. But the main requirement you have been given is to control cost wherever possible. How can you configure the deploy these environments using OpsWorks while controlling costs? Using CloudFormation resources, the reduces the cost of EC2 instances. No. Use different CloudFormation templates for dev, test, and production to control size and cost of servers. Maybe Auto scaling has a charge in a VPC but is not charged when configured using CloudFormation. No. Get pre-configured chef recipes at reduced cost is the only one that makes sense. You are a cloud engineer for a mid-sized enterprise organization and your compliance team has approached you with a request to implement the configuration management solution in your AWS environment. You decide that AWS config may be best solution to meet the needs of your compliance team. What three features does AWS config provides as part of comprehensive configuration management solution? Security analysis, I don't think so. Auditing and compliance, configuration changes, agent-based configuration management. I don't think config has an agent-based stuff. So it can audit and compliance, manage and troubleshooting, configuration changes. Yes, we'll go with this. It's not an agent. There's no agent involved in AWS config. Yeah. You are a DevOps engineer responsible for supporting a two-tiered PHP application deployed on AWS cloud. Okay. What do you say? Let's go. You have 10 minutes. What principles does AWS recommends to remove single point of failure in a design? Single data center resilience, detect failure, data replication, remove redundancy, add redundancy, data replication, detect failure, right? You are asked to establish a baseline for normal Amazon ECS performance in your environment by measuring performance at various times and under different load conditions. To establish a baseline, Amazon recommends that minimum point to see. You are configuring a code build project build spec file. Which one must by cloud consultant developing an AWS architecture for an enterprise application? VPC networking should you keep in mind? VPC networking, monitor network traffic. Oops, did I do skip question or what? They submitted. You are hosting multiple environments in multiple regions and would like to use Amazon Inspector for regular security assessment. This statement about Amazon Inspector. Inspector has no region. You have recently been hired by the company BigTimeCorp.com to review the automation requirements of the latest software project to help BigTimeCorp build and release cadences. You are recently hired DevOps consultant engaged into Fortune 500 in the personal industry. Your company has VPCs in two separate accounts in the same region. Hearing connection. An application hosted on EC2 instance has no usage, almost zero load. For a majority of the day, the application workload increases for roughly 5 hours a day at the same time each day. Same time. Use scheduled instances. I'm submitting so that people can see their answers. Yeah, we passed the exam. So let's quickly take a look at the uh, wrong answers were. Which issues will cause an EC2 instance status check to fail? Incompatible kernel was an option. Instance status check monitor. Okay, so these are the reasons why instance check can fail. Software issues are not reason for EC2 status. That is a software issue. Okay. An organization planning to implement a scalable web application with Amazon EC2. The organization is planning to achieve this. Okay, launch two instance. The four was better option. Huh? Okay, we thought we don't know about the application if that can be deployed on for two CPUs in you get it right. Two instances in the same region. Okay, so conditions was the right answer, not mappings. So conditions are probably something like when this condition is met in CloudFormation, then use this kind of EC2 instance. I haven't used CodeStar, so there is no developer role here. Contributor, viewer, and owner. Okay. Within Amazon ECS, which are the metrics you should monitor? Memory reservations and utilization, and memory utilization. These two are key metrics to be analyzed. You have configured code build spec. Build spec is make. Make is the build process. Make is correct. This allowed build phase names are install. Amazon Inspector is hosted within AWS regions behind the public endpoint. All regions are isolated from each other. And the telemetry and findings for assessment performed within a region remain in that region and not distributed by service to other inspector endpoint location. It's a regional service. The data also remains regional. Right answer was okay. There were two answers that were to be selected. Blue-green deployments within Elastic leverage DNS to redirect. We were right. Blue-green deployments only support external RDS instances. Yeah, I think that's pretty much. Blue-green deployments only support external RDS database instances. Okay, still we did reasonably fine in the first attempt. Questions were tricky. If we spend some more time, we can pass it with good score. But we never studied for this. We just attempted. Okay, with that, we'll close this call.